A new segment from CBS News' 60 Minutes reveals some shocking claims about the mysterious anomalous health incidents, more commonly known as Havana Syndrome.
Now, according to 60 Minutes and investigative journalist Michael Weiss, U.S. intelligence has acquired a Russian weapon which is able to produce symptoms that are very similar to what's been reported by those who say they have Havana Syndrome. And a former CIA officer says that the CIA has attempted to cover up the existence of this weapon. Let's take a look.
This is a massive CIA cover-up, and I say this with great regret. It's an organization that I loved. I believe in the mission. I was really good at this job. To this day, I want to see the CIA operate in a strong and effective manner.
The first reports of Havana Syndrome started popping up about 10 years ago. Government officials often report symptoms, including bouts of severe headaches, vertigo, and cognitive problems. A 2023 assessment by U.S. intelligence concluded that it was, quote, very unlikely that the victims were attacked by a foreign adversary. And for now, that's still the official stance.
According to 60 Minutes, Homeland Security agents purchased a device from a Russian criminal network in 2024 that can emit microwave frequencies. Reporters were not permitted to see the device themselves, but it was described to them by their sources. They say the device doesn't look anything like a gun, it is silent, and doesn't create heat the way a microwave oven would. The device, according to sources, is programmable for different scenarios and can be operated by remote control. The range of the beam is several hundred feet, and it can penetrate windows and drywall. Sources told 60 Minutes the classified weapon obtained by the government has been tested in a U.S. military lab for more than a year. Tests on rats and sheep showed injuries consistent with those seen in humans with Havana Syndrome.
60 Minutes also interviewed a doctor who was asked by the government to lead 2 investigations into Havana Syndrome. And he concluded that Russian scientists had been conducting research on making a weapon like this for decades.
And what the Russians spoke about was the importance of the energy being pulsed in order to have biological effects on humans. When you produce pulses like this, you can actually stimulate electrically active tissue like brain tissue, and the heart for that matter, mimicking what the brain normally does, but now you're driving it with your pulses from the outside.
Okay, sure. Several lawmakers responded to the segment, including Senator Jeannie Shaheen, who wrote on X, "I have long believed that a foreign adversary could be the cause of anomalous health incidents, and I thank 60 Minutes for its reporting. All Americans should pay attention. As I wrote to the Department of War last month, Congress must be briefed now on any proposed changes that might impact our response and our care." Journalist Jordan Weissman wrote, "This is either going to be a big I told you so moment for people I've dismissed as tinfoil hat wearers, or one of the most embarrassing stories 60 Minutes has ever run." Okay, I got a lot of thoughts to get out of here in a short amount of time. We've covered Havana Syndrome for a long time on the show. It's one of the earliest things actually I remember talking about when I started hosting Rising. I've long been skeptical, to be cards on the table, about this because the health problems described by the so-called victims are not very specific. Disorientation, vertigo, cognitive problems. A, those can be symptoms of any number of things. B, some of them being represented by trial attorneys, people seeking settlements from the government. And as I alluded to previously, I have a lot of skepticism of people saying, I have this novel, strange disease, it's the government's fault, where's my paycheck? This kind of medical misrepresentation is one of the most common, absolutely common frauds in our society. I stepped in the crack on the sidewalk, I broke my back, I can't work anymore, I'm on permanent disability, this kind of thing. It is so common. Now, that said, obviously, if the government has actually apprehended a weapon capable of doing this, then that gives credence to what they were saying. It could be the case that it's a weapon and that the initial intelligence changes. Initially, we thought there's no way COVID could have come from a lab, or at least that's what the people with the speakerphone were saying. It turns out a lot of people were thinking all along it could have come from a lab, and now most intelligence agencies have concluded that it did. So I'm a little confused, though, by a couple things. First of all, I don't understand the science whatsoever. And then when they start saying, like, it's like directing your brain waves, that sounds very made up to me. B, we got it from a Russian criminal syndicate? So the Russian government made it, but then a criminal group got their hands on it? Or did they get their hands on a duplicate? Or is it the weapon? Like, how did they steal it from the Russian government? That doesn't seem likely to me.
Well, now
So
there's
I'm still very
conversation
confused.
about it ending up in the wrong hands. Like if the criminal network had access to it, now they're wondering how many other people can have access to this because, it will look bad
So
on
did they make a copy weapon, or did they steal the weapon from the government?
Either way, it'll look bad for the U.S. to have wanted that information because obviously you want to know what Russia's working on to keep your enemy closer and you understand what's happening. But we contracted it from a criminal network and now it negatively has affected the CIA.
This is a huge issue. I can't imagine the Russian government losing or having stolen a secret energy weapon. It's not like the collapse of the Soviet Union. I mean, Russia is a professionally run
They said
military.
that Russia has been working on versions of this for years. So perhaps they have a version of this, or perhaps they created or did like a mimic of it. Either way,
Okay, so they copied it.
But either way, the point is, a lot of people were tried to make feel crazy by the powers that be, and you hear people that are speaking up
sounds crazy.
that are I know, but there were people that reportedly, according to this report, were in the Biden administration that were like, wait. There are some things that are lining up right here. The first time that people who worked on behalf of this country and for the government, for the CIA, were made to feel like they should actually be listened to. I don't see what their incentive would be. I understand you're saying they have lawyers. That's what people do to usually protect themselves. Not everybody is trying to be an ambulance chaser here. And I think the stories to me have been the most eye-opening thing. So I think 60 Minutes was saying that they actually have talked to people that have seen some of the ways of this, and they haven't seen the videos, but there's video proof that sources, according to their story, have seen that have watched how these devices have affect real people that were
Well, no, the
protecting
device
our
hasn't
country.
been used on the device is being used on rats and sheep.
No, they said in the vicinity they've seen people collapse. They tried to attack FBI agents on vacation sitting at a table with their family in
that's
Istanbul.
all theorized.
No, they said that the sources that they talked to saw these videos and they told CBS. And so they're telling you what they were told. Another video in a stairwell in the U.S. Embassy showing people on the stairs suddenly collapsing.
Right.
So this is what CBS is reporting,
but
that
that's
someone has saw the
There's
video.
no evidence that's tied to the weapon. It's theorized that that's the weapon. And maybe it is. But there's no direct evidence.
But you can't just say people collapsing is just normal behavior. I mean, yes, people collapse all the time, but specifically targeting people that work for the FBI.
Someone told me that they saw someone collapse for some reason at some point in Havana. That's not evidence of anything.
Why are you more hesitant to believe that the CIA wouldn't be protecting itself from looking silly by buying a weapon in the first place from a Russian criminal network rather than people who worked for the CIA trying to understand why they have conditions? I mean, you remember Agent Orange after Vietnam, right? That was largely dismissed, and then there's people that are still dealing with the remnants right now.
Right. I just
mean, we have to acknowledge
why people would.
Yes, but I'm saying, I gave you an example of when the government downplayed the extent of something.
Right, and some
Agent Orange. And so we would have a 50-50 chance of who to believe. People who are ambulance chasers or the government actually implicating people and people's health and not admitting to it until years later. We have examples of both in extreme ways. And so I think that just falling on the side of
a directed psionic beam energy weapon.
You're trying to make it seem like a movie. You're trying to make it seem like a movie.
Well, it is. This is a very out there explanation. You're right, that doesn't mean it's impossible. And obviously, if they have the weapon, they have the weapon. I would like to see a scientific report from on the record from someone who's looked at the weapon, explains how it can do that. And then
they're saying the CIA is intentionally trying to hide this information. The government's trying to hide this information. And I think there are several reasons why, but that's what they're claiming. So I guess we have to do a lot of digging to get to the bottom of what's true here.
A Russian criminal network had the weapon doesn't quite add up to me. I don't understand how that would be.
So the origin is the biggest point of contention for you, not whether these people contracted a disease from a weapon that came from Russia. Just how it ended up in the wrong hands.
I can't believe it till I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. You're right. I believe the government lies to us, but 60 Minutes gets stuff wrong constantly. So it's not the most credible.
Your girl Barry Weiss is there. So
they've been on this for forever. They've been doing this. They've been some very interesting coverage on this that I've not really liked that much. But I remain open-minded, and to be clear, I have moved more in the direction of this is actually an energy weapon the way they said it. I was very dismissive of this. Now I'm in the middle.
We'll stay on top of it. The DOJ has reached a settlement agreement with Live Nation and Ticketmaster in their antitrust lawsuit. We're going to be right back after this.